March 22, 1765, Britain passed the Stamp Act. This act imposed taxes on newspapers, playing cards, legal documents, and other items. The Stamp Act was put in place to raise money for British troops and was the first tax directly put on American colonists. It was highly resisted because the colonists argued that since they had no representation in Parliament, it was illegal. With Americans campaigning against it, the Stamp Act was repealed and gave Americans the confidence that they can avoid future taxes as well. October 1768, British troops land in Boston to enforce the Townshend duties. These are taxes on paint, paper, tea, etc. The troops' presence doesn't sit well with locals and leads to street fights. Radicals will call it the Boston Massacre, while the British will call it the incident on King Street. March to June 1774, the British Parliament passes the Intolerable Acts. Among other things, Britain closes the port of Boston and requires British troops to be housed in taverns and vacant buildings. April 19, 1775, the first shots of the Revolutionary War are fired at Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. The news of this brings thousands of volunteers called Minutemen, which is the beginning of the Continental Army. June 17, 1775, colonial soldiers hold off British veterans for more than 2 hours at Breed's Hill, but are forced to abandon their position. Of the 2,200 British Army, more than 1,000 end up dead or wounded. February 27, 1776, a force of Loyalists defeated by a patriotic army at the Battle of Morris Creek Bridge. This setback will largely quiet Loyalists active in the Carolinas for 3 years. June 28, 1776, a British invasion forces an all-day attack on Sullivan's Island. The invaders are unable to land their troops on the island due to the tricky waters of Charleston Harbor. This causes their defeat. The Declaration of Independence is adopted by the Continental Congress. Following a decade of agitation over taxes and a year of war, King George III isn't willing to let his subjects go without a fight. Americans' primary allegiance is to their states. Nationalism will grow slowly. December 1776 to January 1777, in a bold move, Washington moves his troops into New Jersey on Christmas night. The Patriots then surprise a force of German troops, defeating them. This revives the hope that the war might be winnable. February 1778, France allies itself with the new American government. French financial and military aid will prove crucial in winning the war. The Continental Army will learn of the French alliance in May. May 12, 1780, the British take Charleston, South Carolina. They capture a large Patriot army and deal the rebels one of their worst defeats of the war. The Charleston move is part of a British strategy to hang on to the southern colonies. March 15, 1781, British troops win a costly victory over the militia at Guilford Courthouse, North Carolina. The battle is part of General Greene's strategy of engaging the British on grounds of his choosing. Without winning a single clear-cut victory, he will succeed in wearing down the British army through hit-and-run tactics. September to October 1781, a joint French and American force traps a large British army on Virginia's Yorktown Peninsula. Unable to evacuate or receive reinforcements, they are forced to surrender, although New York City and Charleston, South Carolina remain in British hands until a peace treaty is signed 2 years later. The war for American independence is essentially over.